Let's switch tack a little bit here. It's been a week since people using public transport across England were told they had to wear a face mask. But it is causing a problem, quite a big problem, for the deaf and the hard of hearing. Andrew Palmer is the chief exec of the Cambridgeshire Deaf Association and joins us now. Andrew, good morning.
Good morning, Kev.
Before we start our conversation, can I just ask you to answer the question about the dilemma? If you can pick either a haircut or a cold beer or a cold drink in a pub garden, which would you pick?
Well, Kev, it's going to have to be a beer because I'm completely bald. So I cut my own hair anyway.
Okay. Sorry, I had no idea you were completely... But I'm not apologising actually for that. It's just an easy question for you to answer, actually, isn't it?
Well, yeah, very much so, yeah. I have to cut my hair every 2 or 3 days, otherwise I look really old. So, you know, I've had regular haircuts all the way through this.
What, just with the old clippers?
With the old clippers, yeah.
Yeah,
and
understood.
big, yeah.
Now, Andrew, we've mentioned the issue of using public transport, having to wear face masks is clearly something that isn't easy for people who are hard of hearing or who are deaf. What is the main issue here for people, do you think, that you represent?
Well, the main issue is returning back to normal life is causing people, everybody, a bit of anxiety to go back to normal. And people who rely on visual cues, such as facial expressions or lip reading, have got that extra thing to worry about at the moment. And well, obviously everyone completely understands the need to make sure that the virus doesn't spread, and we have to protect people. What we're trying to do is encourage people in public service or in retail just to be aware of people who might be reading lips and try and find different ways to communicate.
And what have you come up with then to help the situation?
Well, we've come up with a badge. It's really, really, really simple. They're only £1 each. And the badge basically says I'm a lip reader with a kind of motif of a face mask on it. So that if someone wearing that has one and can just quickly point to it, then it means that the person who's wearing the mask immediately knows that their words aren't probably going to have the desired effect, and they need to look for different ways to communicate, which could be using gesture or writing things down, writing on a mobile phone, perhaps moving to an area where there's a perspex screen in between people. So what it kind of does is shortcuts that issue between two people to try and smooth communication. And at the end of the day, that's hopefully going to reduce the anxiety of people who really do need to rely on lip reading.
Just describe to us a bit more on this anxiety that you must have come across with many people who are deaf or hard of hearing, because it's an anxious time for anybody, let alone people who are in that sector, in that situation of being deaf.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, as you say, everybody's kind of got a certain amount of anxiety about being around. But if you imagine having to navigate life without being able to hear spoken word and having to rely really on lips, then being locked down for 12 weeks, then heading out, your main mode of trying to understand what people are saying is now taken away from you at a time when there's a lot more restrictions and a lot more changes on the way we're supposed to operate day-to-day life. So it's not just the faces being covered up, but it's also the faces being covered up at a time when you kind of really want to find out what you need to do in the supermarket or what you have to do in the shopping centre, which is different to before. And also on public transport, that's a bit of an issue. Obviously, every time people come speak to the bus driver or get on a train, there's all sorts of different changes and ways things have got to be done. So, yeah, it does cause anxiety for people, and our role in this is to try and reduce that as much as possible while people get back to normal life.
You mentioned the I'm a Lip Reader badges for £1. Where can they be bought?
You can get them from our website, which is camsdeaf.org. They're only £1 plus £1 post and packing. We don't make any money on that, of course. The main idea is just to get them out to as many people as possible. And over the last 3 days, over 150 have gone out to people around the country. So they're proven quite popular.
Andrew, we had a question that's coming to us from a listener who wants to know, how do you get masks on without pulling off hearing aids? Have you got any tips?
Well, there are special plastic clips that you can get, which are being made by various different kind of sixth form colleges and things like that to support masks around the ear, especially if you have to wear them a lot. But really, I think it's just going to be a case of individual kind of technique depending on your hearing aids. There's so many different styles, so just getting used to it, I think, is the main thing.
And I'm just thinking aloud here, if people don't have access to the internet, where else can they get these badges? And I think you're doing T-shirts as well, aren't you, Andrew?
Yeah, no, that's right. There's T-shirts, baby grows, all sorts that you can get, which have got the message on them if people wanted to get them. They're all over the internet. But if people couldn't, if people aren't on the internet, currently we don't have our drop-in centres at the moment open. But if people wanted to drop us a line, then we'll definitely post them out to our address, which can be found on our website. But it's 8 Romsey Terrace in Cambridge, and we'll be happy to post them out to people.
Andrew, we've got to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us this morning.
I really appreciate it, Kev. Thank you so much for having me on, and have a great day.
You too. Andrew Palmer is the Chief Executive of the Cambridgeshire Deaf Association.